Hey friends, Johnny May here, and welcome to this week's Quick Tip, where I'm going to show you how to play the classic Christmas tune, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, in a sweet little jazz style. We're going to start with the basic melody and chords, and then I'm going to show you 4 different jazz techniques to make your chords sound more interesting and colorful. Now before we start, I wanted to mention that this Monday we're launching the biggest special that we offer all year long on the Piano with Johnny membership, up to 50% off in celebration of the holidays. So stay tuned for that, and let's go ahead and dive in. All right, first we're going to play in a traditional piano style. We're going to go through the basic melody and chords, and then I'm going to show you how to spice it up with these more jazzy sounding chords. All right, so if you were to play Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, you might play it like this. Okay, so I'm basically using some very simple chords like C major, right? You've got the melody in the right hand, right? And then you might go to like a 5 chord, your G major, right? And these aren't bad chords. This is a great place to start, but you can definitely make it more interesting. Okay, so if we were to continue, right? Same chord, G major. And then we have this nice little melody. And then back to C. Okay, so we're basically kind of using 2 chords at the beginning of the tune, and then you might repeat this section, right, back to G, right, continuing along, right, and then we're back to a C. That's basically the A section of the tune. Then you have this nice little B section, right, it's kind of an F major chord, like a 4 chord, and then right, E minor sounds nice. Again, we're going to make this a lot more interesting. Right? It's like an A minor, a 6 chord. There's your D major, that's a 2 chord. And then, right, that's like a 5 chord or G major. All right, we're going to spice this up in just a minute, but before we do this, if you're enjoying this lesson, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. All right, you ready for the 4 jazz techniques? The first jazz technique that will make these chords sound a lot more interesting is called the diatonic 7th chords technique, and it's actually a very simple concept. When you're playing a tune in the key of C major, you have these chords called diatonic chords. They're all the chords that come from the key of C major, right? So you have like C major, D minor, E minor, F major, right? G major, A minor, and then B diminished, okay? And these all come from the C major scale. But if you're playing jazz, or if you want to make your chords sound a little more colorful, it's very common to add the 7th to your diatonic 7th chords. So start on the C chord and add another note a 3rd above the G. So this is called a C major 7. And then do it on the D. This is called a D minor 7. And then the E, E minor 7, F major 7, G dominant 7, A minor 7, and B diminished 7. Now if these names don't sound familiar to you, don't worry, it will make sense over time as you play these chords. So make sure you understand diatonic 7th chords. When you want to make something sound a little more jazzy, you're going to use these 7th chords. The second technique that you're going to use to make your chords sound more interesting is called the chord extension technique, and it is a very simple idea. If you take a chord like a C major 7, you can color this chord with up to 3 notes. And what you do is you go up a 3rd to D, a 3rd to F, and the 3rd to A, okay? This is called the 9, the 11, and the 13. And we call it by these names because that's the interval from the root. So this is a 9th, this is an 11th interval, and this is a 13th interval. However, there's a little trick to remembering these chord extensions, and that is that these are the missing notes of the C major scale. So the D, that's the 9, the F is the 11, and the A is the 13. So these are color notes. They're notes you can add to your chords to make them sound interesting. And in just a bit, I'll show you how you can add these notes to the arrangement to sound a little more jazzy. All right, technique number 3 is the chord alteration technique. And this is when you're on a chord like a dominant 7 chord, like your G7. There are 4 really colorful notes that you can add to this chord to make it sound really beautiful. And these are the flat 9, so remember we have the 9, the A, so we have a flat 9. You can put a sharp 9, really cool note. The 11, remember that C? You can do a sharp 11, And then remember our 13, the E, you could do a flat 13, okay? So these are the 4 altered notes that you would typically add to a dominant chord, like a G7, to make it sound really kind of colorful and crunchy. Once again, the flat 9, sharp 9, sharp 11, flat 13. All right, the final technique before we jump into the arrangement is called the secondary dominant technique. And it's a very simple idea. If we're going to a chord, like let's say we're going to a 2 chord, like a D minor 7, there's a chord you can add in front of this chord to make it sound really interesting and cool, and it's called the secondary dominant. And here's the idea. If we're targeting a D minor 7 chord, and we go to the 5th of the chord, the A, you can play a dominant 7 chord on the A, and that leads really well to a D minor 7 chord. As a quick example, let's say I was going C major to D minor, like this. Well, you could go C, A, right? So it's called the secondary dominant technique, and we're going to use this in our arrangement of Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. All right, now that you understand all of the techniques that you can use to color your chords, make them sound a little more interesting, let's apply them to Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. Okay, so we're going to go through the whole tune. I'm going to kind of explain what I'm doing, and then at the end we'll play it with the backing track. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, first few measures. Oh, doesn't that sound so good? Love the jazzy quality of these chords. All right, so let's go chord by chord. First chord, ooh, beautiful, C, 6, 9. It's like a C major, but we're adding the 6th and the 9. Remember, the 9 is a chord extension, and the 6 is like a 13, right? It's a chord extension. You can make your chords sound beautiful with these added notes. So we have walking around. Oh, love this chord. This is a G7. It's kind of spread out, and we're adding some really cool notes to it. We've got the 9, and we've got the 13. Again, if this doesn't make sense, go back to your G7, 9, 11, 13, 9, 13, and we're just spreading the notes out. Ah, love that sound, okay? So this is the first measure. Walking around the... Back to C, 6, 9, Christmas, same chord. Ah, love this chord. This is called an A7, and we're adding again the 9 and the 13. If you don't know these notes, just play an A7 and then go back to your A scale, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 11, 13, okay? So it's an A7, 9 and 13, okay? So we have rockin' around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party. So the next phrase, at the Christmas, like a D minor 7. It's a 2 chord, okay, in the key of C. Christmas party hop, okay? So after we play that melody, we're going to come down, and then on the B, play the B with your index finger and free up that A for some little chord pops on the G7 chord. So this is like a G dominant 7, but we're adding the 9th to it. You see that? Next phrase. All right. So what we're doing here, we're playing a beautiful D minor 11 chord. It's like a D minor 7, but we're adding a G, which we call the 11, and then we're putting it down below. Okay, this is a really beautiful voicing that we love to use in jazz. Okay, so we have back to that beautiful G13 chord. Remember earlier we had the A on the top. Now we're just putting the B on the top, okay? So we have next phrase, same thing, and then so for this one, D minor 11, there's our melody, beautiful G13 chord again, and then we're going to do a little chord pop here on the C6. There's the C6 chord, same chord you learned earlier. Just pop the inner notes. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then we're going to grab this beautiful G7 chord with a flat 13. Okay? It's a G7. Remember, 9, 11, 13. there's a chord alteration. Remember I said you can do this on a dominant chord, so it sounds really good here on the G7. Now from here, you're going to go back to the beginning of the tune and you're going to play the exact same thing. Right? Exact same thing. And here it's going to change. And then we're into the B section, okay? So the second ending, okay, same chord, D minor 11, and then there's our beautiful G13 chord. Melody comes down, and then we're going to do a chord pop on the C6. Basically for the chord pop, outer note C, we're going to pop the C6. So we have 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and then we have this beautiful chord called a C9, okay? It's like a C7 or C dominant 7, and we're adding the 9th, which is a chord extension, okay? I also like to slide the 9 like that, make it a little bluesy, okay? So here's the full slide, sliding up to the D. All right, we are into the B section. You're doing a great job, and the B section's actually, I think, a little easier than the A section. Beautiful sound here. So we're starting on an F6 chord, okay? Nice open fifth on the bottom, C, D, and A. And then we're going, you see this? This is a C7. Got the melody on the top, and I'm just adding a little D, which is our chord extension. So we have, okay? Now this is an example of a secondary dominant chord where you can add like a C7 in front of an F chord instead of just sitting on the F, right? You can go da 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 da. It's a passing chord that you can use to make your chord progressions sound more interesting. Okay, so we have back to this F6, E minor. There's our chord, E minor 7. It's one of our diatonic 7th chords. And then this is really cool. Ah, love this sound. What the heck is going on here? Well, it's an E7 chord. I'm coloring my E7 chord with a 9, okay? But I'm also doing one other thing. I'm suspending this chord. That is when you take the third of the chord, you raise it up a half step, and then you resolve it like this, okay? So it's an E9 sus4 that gets resolved, but I'm also harmonizing my resolution. So check this out. On the 9, I'm gonna harmonize it like that. I'm gonna go from the 9 to the flat 9, which is a chord alteration, okay? So here's the full thing. We're gonna go outer notes, E9 sus4, and then we're gonna resolve it like this, okay? Once more, that sound great. Love these little passing chords. Okay, final phrase here. All right, so we're basically starting on an A minor 7 chord. Okay. It's kind of just a spread out 6 chord in the key of C. And then a beautiful D9 chord, okay? It's like a D7, but we're adding the 9, which is a chord extension, okay? And then, this is a 2 chord in the key of C. It's a D minor 7, very spread out. And then, okay, this is a really cool trick you can use at the end of a chord progression on a 5 chord. So this is a G7. Got the 13 in there, that's that chord extension. Ah, what the heck's going on here? Well, you can take your 13 and drop it down to a flat 13 to give a little rub to your chord. Okay, so this works really well on a dominant chord. And this resolves really nicely back to your C major chord at the beginning of the tune. Now from here, you're gonna go all the way back to the A section. You're gonna play one more A section, and when you get to the very end of the A section, you're gonna end the tune, and I like to end it on like a C6 like this, and then you can put a little button at the end like a low C. All right, in just a minute, we're gonna put the full arrangement together with both hands. But before we do this, if you're enjoying this lesson and you wanna do a deep dive and you wanna learn some more Christmas arrangements, how to take a basic Christmas tune with a melody and chords and turn it into a beautiful jazz arrangement, we have some great courses, including Oh Christmas Tree, Go Tell It on the Mountain, and our Jingle Bells challenge. So I'll put a link to those courses below. All right, we're gonna play the full arrangement with the included backing track. And by the way, this lesson comes with 3 downloadable backing tracks at different tempos. I'll put a link to those below, and let's go ahead and play with the backing track. Here we go. Back to the beginning. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this lesson, please let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out PianoWithJonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.